Charging for translation services. Why should you pay for each of them? You want a good translation, and of course you need to save the money. For example, you need to translate your website or ad brochure. The translator gives you the estimation and you are not satisfied. Why is it so expensive, you ask? It's just a translation, and the proofreading and localization and DTP. Don't you think that quality content must be paid for accordingly? So why does the translator charges for each service separately? First of all, let's take a look at pricing models. They can be per word. This is the most common unit you will encounter, since many translators and companies charge for their services per word. Per word pricing tends to be the most fair for all parties involved. The reason behind this is that the actual effort involved in translating a document may vary from translator to translator. For example, a blog article that contains 2,000 words may take one translator 8 hours to translate, while another one can do it in 6 hours. Paying per word helps you keep project costs in control as opposed to paying per hour. Another thing to look for in per word pricing is whether you are being charged based on the source or target word count. For example, if the source word count is 2,000 words and you are charged 25 cents per word, the total cost will come out to $500. But let's say your document is being translated from English into Spanish, and the target word count will increase by roughly 20% in the Spanish version due to expansion. In other words, 2,000 English words all of a sudden become 2,400 Spanish words after translation is completed, and your bill rises to $600. The difference between paying per source as opposed to per target word could have a significant impact on your translation budget, so beware of that. Finally, sometimes you will see quotes from companies quoting per thou or per thousand words. This is common for projects that are over 1,000 words in volume. In the example above, you would be paying $250 per thou or 25 cents per word. Per page model. Some persons or companies will charge to translate your content based on the number of pages your document contains. Per page pricing works well for documents where an electronic word count cannot be obtained. A good example of this would be any document that would be scanned to a PDF file, such as medical records or court documents and IPs. Per page price is determined by an estimate number of words on a single page. Let's say you have 50 pages of medical records you need to translate. We can assume there are roughly 500 words of content on each page. The content may be typed and include handwritings as well, since many medical records have progress notes on them. Your language services company quotes you $100 per page. The total project price you will be paying is $5,000. Now this sounds expensive, and there is a chance that you could probably pay less, since not all pages have 500 words of content. The way to do that is to ask for per word pricing. However, in order for per word pricing to be accurate, you should provide the language services company with editable files whenever possible and avoid scanned PDFs. Per hour model. It's not very often you will find companies charging for translation services by hour. As I've previously noted, in the per word pricing, it's hard to estimate the amount of effort each translation project will take. You will encounter per hour pricing for editing and updating content that's already been translated. For example, the 2,000-page document you had translated into Spanish is now due for an update. You update a few paragraphs in the English version and send it along to your language services company so they can update the Spanish version accordingly. Sometimes it doesn't make economic sense for the language services company to charge for such updates per word. Instead, they may quote you to complete the updates on an hourly basis, and this usually works in your favor anyway. One thing to keep in mind is that if you make many revisions, your source content may suddenly yield a whole new document. In such cases, it might be more cost-effective for you to translate the content from scratch rather than having it revised. Just be sure that the translation memory the company is maintaining for you is updated as well. The flat fee model. When per word, per page or per hour pricing just doesn't make sense, you may see a flat fee estimate for your translation project. I can only think of a few examples that I've encountered over the years that required flat fee pricing. One such example included content in traditional Chinese that needed to be translated into English. Per word and per page pricing didn't make sense for this project, since the contents were actually JPG files with Chinese characters. Per hour pricing would have worked in this case, but we decided to keep things simple and quote it as a flat fee. Our client was satisfied with this approach and approved the project. Perhaps the biggest downside to flat fee pricing is that you don't get the fine details of what you are actually paying for. If you're okay with this, flat fee pricing may work great for you. You just won't see how your language services company arrived at the price you are paying. Minimum price. Be ready to pay minimum fees to language services companies for small projects. A small project is considered to be any document that contains up to 250 words of content. Please note that this number is arbitrary. Some companies may have a different threshold for a translation project to fall in the minimum fee category. In other words, whether you need 25 or 250 words translated, you will still be paying a minimum fee. The minimum fee covers not only the translation part of the project, but other tasks associated with it, such as project management. Factors that determine the price. Now that you learned about the most common translation pricing models and structures, you must also understand other factors that determine the price. These factors include Number 1. Number of words to be translated. Do you have a one-page document with a few hundred words or a series of manuals with over 50,000 words? The price you pay will largely be driven by the number of words you need translated. Generally, the more words you translate, the lower the price per word will be. Number 2. Complexity of the subject matter. How complex is the subject matter of your content? If you have highly technical content that requires a scientific level of expertise, be prepared to pay for such expert services. Be cautious of companies that provide you with the same pricing regardless of the subject matter. If it's quality that you are after, you need to budget for it accordingly. Number 3. Language combination. Almost all translation companies have most frequently requested languages. Since all companies will have a specific language combination that's more in demand than any other language combination that they service, this applies to almost every translation company. When you have a rare language such as Portuguese or Marshallese, a competitive price similar to Spanish is tough to achieve. This is a simple supply and demand issue. There are very few translators that specialize in a rare language, and there is simply not enough demand for those language combinations. So, when you need something to be translated into a rare language, be prepared to pay a premium. Number 4. Turnaround time. How quickly are you looking to have your content translated? A good baseline to use for realistic turnaround times is 2,000 words per day. On average, a translator can translate about 2,000 words per day. You should note that this is for translation only. It doesn't include editing and proofreading by additional translators. Can a project like this be completed in less than 24 hours? Yes, but you'd probably be looking at paying rush fees since you are pressing for a quicker turnaround time. Ideally, You should expect a 2 to 3 day turnaround for 2000 word translation that also includes editing and proofreading. Number 5. Volume of work. Are you looking to form a solid partnership with a language services company, or have only one piece of content you need translated and be done with it? The company is more likely to give you preferential pricing if you are willing to make a volume commitment. Customers translating 200-page user manuals every quarter will definitely see more volume discount than those translating a one-time birth certificate. Be upfront about the volume of work you anticipate and let your language services company know about it. They should give you a discounted price for your ongoing commitment. So now you have an idea about price models and its structure. The question left: why should you pay for each of the services separately? Proofreading. Proofreading is a separate service in the language industry for the same reason that auditing is separate service to the financial industry. The proofreading process is a vital part of our quality assurance process. While the initial service provided by the translator will be of outstanding quality, the task of the proofreader is distinct. The process of review by a second, independent native tongue linguist will eliminate the small errors that can slip through the net when just one person works on the same job for a long time. The proofreading service is recommended in every instance, but when the text is particularly complex, technical, or creative, the collaboration and scrutiny of a second opinion will make the project as sharply focused as can be. In particular, when your text is to be published or otherwise disseminated to a wide readership, a proofread translation is invaluable to you. Formatting and DTP requirements. All I've mentioned so far really focuses on the translation part of the process, with perhaps some editing and proofreading thrown in as well. In reality, your content may not be a simple MS Word document. You may have charts, you may have graphs, tables, graphics, and other visual content. Your document may even be laid out in Adobe InDesign or one of many other popular content creation tools. You've now taken a simple translation project and added an extra level of complexity to it. Advanced formatting and DTP, that is desktop publishing, layout services are usually billed as a separate line item. Keep that in mind as you create those wonderful brochures in Adobe Illustrator or Microsoft Publisher. You will have to budget to have them typeset. Formatting and DTP services are generally billed on a per-hour basis. Localization. Let's return to our example. You need to translate the website. However, for your website to resonate properly with your international audience, it's not enough just to translate the words from source to target language. You must also attune other aesthetic features of your website, such as layout, date format, currencies, images, humor, and cultural references that will likely miss the mark if left alone. This process is known as localization, and we have a trusted network of highly skilled specialists who understand what is required. In the interest of avoiding technical issues, please be aware that by far the easiest way to conduct a website translation is for you to provide us with the original XML files. These files contain the coding of your web page. Once we have these, the translated text can be directly flowed onto your web page, avoiding the need for laborious recoding. Now it is clearer for you to understand why human translation costs not so cheap as you expect. The polished end product you receive is the result of a many-layered collaboration between highly trained experts or hard work of high-level professionals whose work cannot be of a low cost.